Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a full tutorial on Retell AI's function calling, the three types of functions that you can call inside of Retell, which is before, during, and after the call. I'll be showing you all the functions I created for a custom AI voice agent that employs all three types of these functions and is able to recognize repeat callers and call them by name in the first message, book calls during the actual call, and if the potential client requests a spot that's already been booked, then can give them additional options that are open for that day, as well as the end of call function that actually creates a custom lead magnet anytime anyone calls this voice agent. So stay tuned and I'll get into it right now. And so here we are inside of Retell. But first, for everybody that doesn't know, I just want to quickly explain what is a function or function calling in regards to making these voice agents, or this also applies to chatbot. At its simplest, a function and the purpose of it is to grab information that exists outside the call, outside the conversation you or a potential client is having with the AI, and then bring it into that conversation. Or in addition to that, a function can also take some information from the conversation you're having with the voice agent and then perform an action based on that information. So an example of what I first explained, bring information into the conversation, is if you already have a lead database and someone calls your AI agent and you already have them in your lead database, the AI agent can then have the ability to know that person's name, email, whatever the content of their previous calls were, and then they're armed with that context to then have a better conversation with that potential client. And then an example of the second one is simply booking appointments, where you take some information you gain during the call, whether that be phone numbers, emails, names, then you go outside and perform an action and book an appointment based on that information. And so that's what function calling and its purpose is at its simplest. And the platform we actually use to do all this function calling is called make.com. So here we are inside make.com, and I know you're kind of looking at a lot of stuff. I'll explain everything so that you're not overwhelmed. But if we come in here and take a quick look at one of the functions we're going to be using, this will actually end up being our end of call function. What it does is it uses a webhook, which simply is a way to send information between different platforms. So this is a way for Retell AI to send whatever information it got during the call to whatever platforms you want. Think of it like a phone number between people where you can talk over a specific phone number. That's what a webhook does. And then basically all that's happening here is it takes this information, puts it into a Google Sheet, runs some of that through ChatGPT, and then creates a Google Doc. And so make.com essentially allows you to code, but really it's using APIs to perform functions automatically between different platforms. And I know if you're a beginner, I just threw a lot at you, but I promise as I go through this tutorial, and hopefully you're going through it with me, you'll start to get the grasp of all of this and how it works. So here we are back in Retell AI. If you're not familiar with Retell or anything like that, I did make a previous video making a demo gym agent that also had a calendar booking functionality. And feel free to watch that after this video. And I talk a lot more about the different settings and unique features that Retell has in comparison to platforms like Vappy, which I've made videos on in the past. And so this video, again, will be focusing specifically on functions. So let's hop into it and let's talk about actually the most complicated type of function, in my opinion, first, which is functions during the call. And so if you come to your voice agent, you come up here to the functions tab, as you might expect, you'll have the option to add a function. And what you see here are there's a bunch of functions here that are pre-made, such as ending the call and then actually calendar booking functionality through cal.com, which makes it super easy if you're a beginner to make one of these functions because you don't have to know how to create an actual custom function. However, in this video, again, this is a tutorial, so I'm going to be showing you how to create a custom function. And so there's a couple of fields here in the custom function. And first is the name, which is simply for you to identify the function by. Second is the description, which is actually how the AI identifies the function. And so you want to describe what the function does in this section so that the AI knows when to deploy or use it. For example, as you'll see in our calendar booking function, which I'll get to in a second, it just says, hey, this function books appointments on a calendar, so that in the prompt, when it says, hey, book an appointment after you get this information, the AI knows, oh, I have a function that does that, and then runs the function. And then your URL is where we put that webhook, that phone number, metaphorically, that I was just talking about, just so that it knows where to send the information. The API timeout, you don't have to worry about it, just leave it at that. And then this parameters section is where you would send any additional information you need to perform whatever function you're doing. For example, if you're booking something on a calendar, you would need their name, email, phone number, and maybe a description of what happened on the call. And so to get all that information, you actually have to organize it in a way that these webhooks sort of like. Explaining fully how all that works is a bit beyond the scope of this video, but I make it super easy for you guys since I made a custom GPT that can create these schemas for you. And so if you actually go down in the description and join my free community, AI Agency Academy, you can come over to the classroom here, go to YouTube resources, come to this video, and actually when you look at this, there will be a lot more resources, including blueprints of every single function and prompt I used in this video so that you can replicate exactly what I did. And you'll be able to identify the resources, they'll all be labeled. And you can come to this JSON schema GPT, open that, and then in this, you just want to outline what sort of extra information you want. So for example here, I just prompted that I was building a calendar booking scenario and I wanted to collect the information of the email, phone number, and first name of whoever I was booking the appointment for. So if you just send this, it will create this JSON, and shortly what's just happening here is it's just outlining the type of data it's going to be sending through the webhook so that when make.com receives all this information, it actually knows what to do with it. So all you have to do to use this is just copy that, come back over into Retell, paste it in here, you can hit this format button, and then hit save. And I don't have a name for all this, but if you had the name, description, and URL, this would work. And then as soon as this function runs, it would then send the email, phone number, and first name of whoever was calling. And so if we look at a fully built function like this calendar booking function, we can now see the name, the description I used, the URL or webhook, as well as all this JSON schema. For example, for calendar booking, I actually forgot this with the last one. You do want the date and time. That's a huge one. Obviously, you need to know when to book the appointment. So now that you've actually set up that custom function within Retell, let's go over to Make and see what that looks like on the other side. Now, this function I did take a lot of inspiration from another YouTube channel called Lenny and Terrell versus AI. However, I changed a lot of the stuff to alter it to Google Calendar. They had made it for cal.com, but since Retell already had a cal.com integration and they had already built one, I wanted to make it specific to Google Calendar and my specific use case. And so if you come over and look at this function, I'll quickly walk you through sort of the logic behind everything that's happening so that you can fully understand what each of these little circles or modules, as they're actually called, does. So this webhook collects all that information from that little JSON schema we just created. So everything you outline in the GPT will be sent through here. And then this OpenAI block, what this does is it simply organizes the date and time in the format we actually want it. And it has all these instructions here, and it actually outputs every single block of time from 9 to 5 on whatever day that person requested. And so if you actually wanted to change whatever your calendar availability was with Google Calendar, what you would want to do is, or what I would recommend is you just copy this into ChatGPT and say, instead of making this from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., change it to noon to 8 p.m. If those are the times you work and while a book calls in, this is where you would change all of that. And then what this next block does is simply takes that entire time slot, so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and checks any times you might be busy already during that calendar. So if you had something booked at 3 p.m., it would return that. And then it would then send whatever that information is into this OpenAI block. This one takes whatever information of when you're busy and then outputs whenever you're not busy. And then this next ChatGPT block, after you know exactly when you're not busy, this one checks the original time the person requested. So say they requested for 3 p.m. and checks it, cross checks it with whatever times the previous ChatGPT block outputted that you're not busy. So if someone requested 3 p.m. and this prior block said 3 p.m. is the time we're not busy, then this would output, hey, it's open, and then it would then route it up the available tree and then end up booking the call through here. And then if this had said, hey, 3 p.m. is actually a busy time, then this ChatGPT block actually checks if there's any open times during that day. And if there are, it will give 2 alternative slots. And if there's none, it'll tell the AI to just say, hey, I'm sorry, but there's no available times. And if that time is available, this block simply formats the date once again exactly how we want it. And then this Google Calendar creates an event. And you'll actually see that I have mapped all these outputs in this data sent. And actually, when you copy this blueprint, all of this will be mapped inside of there. You'll have to set up all your connections to Google Calendar and ChatGPT. However, all these little red things, which are the dynamic variables that change from caller to caller. So, for example, this was part of the JSON schema we created. All of that will still be there, so that literally you can copy and paste this, and the only thing you have to change is connecting your own accounts to all of these modules. And so that's just one example of how in-call custom functions can work. There's plenty of other stuff. For example, you could verify if you're a customer and it could send you a certain code. It can send emails during the call. It can run a variety of different functions depending on whatever your use case is. Calendar booking is just a really common one, and Google Calendar is free, which is why I wanted to create this function for you guys to get started with. I will say this is probably the most complicated part of this entire video. So if you're hanging around and mostly understanding whatever I'm explaining now, you'll be all good to actually start creating your own custom functions on your own, as well as you're well on your way to understanding the rest of the video. So now I'm actually going to call the AI agent. You're going to be able to see it run through this custom booking function in real time.
Hi, Tommy. This is Kelly from Iron Core Fitness. How can I help you today?
Hey Kelly, it's good to talk to you again. I was talking to you about how I wanted to put on more muscle and get a bit more toned, and I was wondering if I could book an appointment to come in and see you.
Great to hear from you again, Tommy. Before we book your appointment, can you tell me a bit about your current fitness routine and any challenges you're facing with building muscle and toning?
I just have a big problem eating enough. I can't put on weight, and I work out
Got
3 times a week, so pretty regularly.
Thanks for sharing, Tommy. It sounds like you're consistent with your workouts, which is great. But we can definitely work on a nutrition strategy to help you gain weight and build muscle. Let's schedule that consultation to dive deeper into your plan. What day and time works best for you?
If we could do tomorrow at 3 p.m., that sounds great.
It looks like tomorrow at 3 p.m. isn't available. Is there another day or time that works for you, Tommy?
Yes, if we could do 2 days from now at 1 p.m.
It looks like 1 p.m. isn't available, but we can do 12 p.m., 2 p.m., or 2:15 p.m. on that day. Which one works best for you, Tommy?
2 days from now at 2:15 p.m. sounds great.
Your consultation is all set for December 26th at 2:15 p.m. EST, Tommy. I'm excited to work with you on your goals. See you then.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so there, I actually ran through the first time, which I purposely scheduled times that were not available, so you could see it run through each branch. And then that last time, I scheduled for a time that was available, which is like 2 days from now. And there you can see it booked in that calendar. And if we go over to my Google Calendar, you can see it booked it in right there. And you can see this is why previously those times weren't working, because these were all booked up. And so, yeah, that's how that Google Calendar function works. And next, I'm going to get into functions that run after the call ends. Now, one last thing I do actually want to mention in regards to functions you run inside of the call is that you want to be very explicit when saying to run these functions. So, as you can see here in this prompt, I say after so and so happens, after you collect their information or talk to them enough, use run function and then explicitly say calendar booking to book the consultation. And you want to use the specific name, calendar underscore booking, calendar underscore booking. You can see that here when I give example scenarios in this prompt, I say runs calendar underscore booking so that the AI knows exactly when to run those in call function. And so if you want to run a function after the call ends, the most common use case of this is actually updating a Google Sheet, sort of a call log. Despite there being a call log already in Retell, if it's in a Google Sheet, you can perform more actions with it, and sort of organize it however you want. Versus with Retell, they sort of have a one size fits all organization, and you have to go into their platform every time. So if you go down here to webhook settings, and you go here to agent level webhook URL, this is where you will paste the webhook for your end of call function. And so this is what that function actually looks like. And I actually have a few extra steps at the end here to create your own customized lead magnet for literally every person that calls, which is super valuable. And so what's happening here is when a call ends, it sends a bunch of information about the call. Think of the transcript, how well the bot did, how happy the person calling seemed with the experience, and it passes all that through this webhook. However, you want to have this important filter right here, and these filters are a bit more complicated than a normal call started or analyze filter, and I'll sort of explain that in a bit because what we're doing with the Google Sheet is we really want the phone number of whoever called, and with Retell that actually doesn't show up in this call analyzed payload. And so the difference between call started and call analyzed is as the AI call goes on, Retell sort of sends information in bursts to whatever webhook you have. And so the call started information is really just the phone number. And then the call analyzed is all that stuff I previously talked about, which is the summary, the transcript, everything like that. And we want both of those. So this filter just makes sure whatever information coming through is either the call started or the call analyzed. What happens with all that information is it goes to a Google Sheet where if you connect to your Google Sheet, this will already be all implemented, and you can actually just copy the Google Sheet I use. That'll also be within my school if you go to Classroom, and right where you found the JSON schema GPT, make sure to join that and get all these resources so that you're not wasting time making things that you could just copy and paste. And so we paste all this information into the corresponding fields. One thing I do want to note is that Retell actually has predefined information and data that they send out in the call analyze sort of payload of information. And that's stuff like the transcript, recording URL, everything I just mentioned. However, if you want something unique from the call, what you have to do is create your own sort of data structure that you want to send through. And that sounds complicated, it's not. And that's stuff like the first name or the email address to collect that during the call. And how you would get that, as you see here, so you go over here and you go to post call analysis and then post call data retrieval, and you create something like caller name, which you just saw. And all you do in here, it's similar to a custom function, except it's only two fields, really. And that's the name of it, which again is for you, and the description, which, as I described earlier, is for the AI to recognize it. Then you could give different format examples. So I just formatted the name, and then, for example, the email is where this would be more important, where you'd be like, hey, like, this is the email of the actual caller. Um, you could do something like this so it knows how to format the email. And then, obviously, if you were retrieving something a bit more custom, then that's when those like format examples would be more important. And so if we go back in here, we map all that data to the Google Sheet. And this is what all that actually ends up looking like when you put it in a table. So this is a transcript, call recording, summary, the caller sentiment, whether the call is successful, the first name. I didn't give my email address in any of those calls, so it didn't collect that. And this last one is the phone number. And this is really important for our pre-call function, which is why we sort of went through the trouble of adding the extra event in that filter that I just showed you. However, I just cut this off so that you couldn't see my personal phone number. And then if we go back into make, so that's actually what happens when you see all this data being inputted into all these cells, is that's how they end up in here automatically as soon as a call ends. So for these demo calls that I just showed you, and so what this ChatGPT step actually does is it creates a personalized workout plan based on based on the conversation that the agent, the AI agent, and the caller had. See, based on the transcript, and it creates a full personalized workout plan. It actually makes a custom Google Doc um, for that person that you can then send to them and use as a lead magnet, especially if they didn't end up booking a call. You can say, hey, I made this workout plan. Um, let's find a time for you to come into the gym and we can execute on this workout plan for you. And so, literally every time someone calls, you'll have a lead magnet personalized to them and made for them. So that's what this end of call function does. And we have this extra filter right here. And what this does is basically ensures that since we send information at the start of the call with the phone number and at the end of the call with the transcript and everything, we don't want them making a random workout plan with no transcript already at the start of the call and cluttering up our Google Docs. So this filter should just make sure anytime more than two cells are updated, which basically ensures that it's the call analyzed payload coming through, then it can go through. However, if it's just the call started, then it just stops after the Google Sheet. And so based on that previous call you actually just saw, we can check out the Google Doc and the Google Sheet. So here's the Google Sheet as you previously saw. You can see this entire transcript. They actually record the call here. There's an entire call summary, whether the call was successful or not. So this is the one where I actually booked the call. And then it grabbed my name every time. And again, this name and phone number field will be important later. Um, and you actually don't need to collect the phone number at all because Retell, when the call starts, actually automatically collects the phone number of whoever's calling. If you want to do a preferred phone number, then you could. However, there's really no need to. And so here's my personalized workout plan. You can see it sent it in Markdown, so I'm sure there's some ways you can get around that to where this is like bolded instead of the double asterisks. But here we have a short little workout, and what I want you to imagine is not just this one siloed use case I used it for, but imagine your specific agency, your specific niche. What sort of things could you do when at the end of every call you make something personalized? Whether that's sending an email instead of making a Google Doc, or maybe it's creating a business plan or an entire marketing plan based on the call your AI had. Now, that would be pretty crazy, but it's totally possible, and all you have to do is change the prompt around in that ChatGPT step. So I made the framework for it. You just have to go out and put the meat into it based on put the meat into it. You just have to change it a bit and tailor it to your specific use case. And what I'm really here for is to give you the framework and get you to start brainstorming about what you can create. And if you don't know where to start, you can message me or other people, make a post in the community, and we can help you out. Because a lot of us have done stuff like this before, and we know what works and know what doesn't. And so that's pretty much it for the end of call function. Now let's get into what happens before the AI even picks up the phone. One thing I do want to note is you can download all these make.com blueprints and just import them for yourself. And the way you do that is you just go to my school community. You'll see I'll have a little link for whatever it is. I'll call it Retell Call Dashboard Make Blueprint. And then you would download that from my school community. And then you come in here, hit these three lines, hit import blueprint, and then all you want to do is select that file that you had just downloaded, and this will pop up all for you. And that makes it super easy and saves you a bunch of time. Now, when I was talking earlier about the end of call analysis, you might have noticed this webhook for inbound call webhook URL right above it. And that's when you want to run a function before the AI even picks up. So if you need information as soon as the AI picks up, this is where you grab it from. And so what this looks like is usually you'll use this if you want to try and identify whoever's calling. So as soon as it sends that call started payload through the webhook, that's when you actually want to go in and find, hey, is this someone we've talked to before? Or is this a past customer that we know stuff about? You can then personalize those calls like it was an actual human at a real business that recognizes whoever's calling if they're a regular. And so what we do here is we take this webhook, and that webhook basically only grabs the phone number of whoever's calling. Then this ChatGPT step, what it does is formats the phone number in the way that Google Sheets actually formats it, because the way Retell sends it and the way it's stored in Google Sheets is a bit different. So that then, once that format is correct, you go into the Google Sheet and you search for any rows with that phone number. And then after that, you actually grab any rows that phone number exists. And this actually allows you where if there's multiple places, if this person's called multiple times, you can receive the context from every single one of those calls. And what it does is it then responds so that the AI knows the first name, the email, and any previous call summaries. And now this Google Sheet is the exact same as this dashboard, which is why it's important we have these phone numbers and why it's able, when I call this AI, to say, hey Tommy, instead of just hi. And so if I were to call from a different number, I'll actually show you right now. Let me just call this real quick.
Hi, Tommy. This is Kelly from Iron Core Fitness.
So you see how it said, hey Tommy. If I change some of these, oh, you can see how that just updated. If I change this to Greg, and then I call again,
Hi, Greg. This is Kelly from Iron Core Fitness.
and then you can see it actually logged my name as Greg. And then if I go in here and there's no first name, let's see what it does now.
Hi, this is Kelly from Iron Core Fitness.
And you can see each time it dynamically changes based on whether there's a name or not, and it sounds natural every time. And so that the way this is done is that in this welcome message, you say hi, and then you need these double brackets in the name of whatever that payload is called. So if we go and make, you can see this is double brackets and then first underscore name. Then you go over here, and you can see since we label this data as first underscore name, that's why it's called that. And then you can see we also put this into the prompt where we have caller information where their first name is that double brackets first underscore name, their email is just email, then the previous call summaries is called previous call summaries. And you can see that aligns with the name of each of these within make, and that is not coincidence. It's because we set that as those, and this is how Retell is able to grab all that information and personalize these calls based on previous conversations, which is huge. It makes it super easy to do it too. And you can actually set this up in probably 10 minutes yourself just by copying and pasting everything I've already created. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Again, remember to join my school community if you have any additional questions for me. If you'd like to work with me or have one of these AI agents built for yourself, email me at tommy@arose.ai and we can find the time to talk. And then if you're interested in starting your own AI agency and you don't know how, I've created a video on how to start your own AI agency in under 30 minutes. If you're looking for more videos on retail, I also have those on my channel as well. So stay blessed and have a great day.